So this is a Leaf take that I just cannot get behind. And yes, we're back on the Leafs. I know some of you don't like that. I don't really like focusing on one NHL team so much, but the Leafs are arguably one of the most prominent franchises in the NHL, and their poor start has been one of the biggest plot lines this season so far. Alright, as we covered last night, the Leafs blew a 3-1 lead to Anaheim. This was despite what we'll call some help from the refs. They gave the Leafs a penalty shot when arguably the Ducks should have had one for a very similar situation, and there was what I'm going to call a pretty terrible goalie interference call, bringing back what would have been a go-ahead goal. Anyway, Mark Spector tweeted out, between the penalty shot and non-penalty shot in the negated Anaheim goal, feel free to think the NHL wants Toronto to succeed. That disallowed goal was criminal. Now, as someone who works in social media, I understand sometimes you need to be, I guess, extreme to get people interested in what you have to say, but this is going too far. The disallowed goal was bad, and it certainly tilts the ice in favor of goalies and defenders way too much for my liking. There needs to be crease battles. Strong players should not be penalized for being strong. Calling it criminal, I mean, obviously it's an exaggeration, whatever. My biggest problem comes with the first part though. Feel free to think the NHL wants Toronto to succeed. This plays into a narrative, and Mark knows what he's doing. People have been saying forever, the NHL favors the Leafs. The NHL wants the Leafs to succeed. I'm not primarily a Leafs fan, but even I get tired of this rhetoric. And it also just shows how short people's memories are. Let's not forget the beginning of the season had a few key calls go against the Leafs. There was, of course, that game against Arizona, where what the refs called a hand pass ended up getting a goal called back, what would have been a tying goal near the end of the game. I'll link to a video that I did breaking that down in the upper right-hand corner. Another controversial call that went against the Leafs was just over a week ago in the game against Dallas. Basically, the goal was initially waved off for being goalie interference, but on review, they ended up deciding that it was Mitch Marner who knocked the goalie, and the goal ended up counting. Anyway, my point is that calls go both ways in the NHL at all times. If the NHL is really trying to rig things for the Leafs, well, the boys haven't made it to the second round since I was in junior high. They can do a better job. The fact is, questionable calls will go both ways, and although you can definitely joke about, refs being paid off, I made a joke like that in the video I did yesterday, especially when you're a national stage reporter, I think you do have a responsibility not to feed directly into those sorts of things. Like, the dialogue from hockey's top journalists should be above, angry Reddit comment section, just in my opinion. Anyway, just my thoughts. Let me know yours down below. Oh, also, one last thing I'm adding as I'm editing this. Is it really in the league's best interest for Toronto to be doing well? I mean, maybe. It's definitely good for playoff viewing numbers, but Canadians will be interested in hockey either way. And let's be honest, we've seen that Leafs fans are pretty much in it for the long haul regardless of how bad a team is.